Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs don't come from the DNA results or public trees. They come from people willing to share their stories. In this case, matches were scarce, trees were private, and recent immigration made records scarce and even unavailable. But thanks to the kind hearted individuals who answered my messages, we uncovered a hidden truth and we were able to solve the mystery. My name is Lori Cousin. I'm a genetic genealogist at DNAngels. And today I have a wonderful story with a nice ending for Renee. Renee was a client who came to us. She was adopted. She knew her whole life that she was adopted along with her sister. What she didn't know was when she and her sister, a couple of years ago, sent away for their original birth certificate. When they received the original birth certificate, they both had the same mother's name listed on their birth certificate and no father. They actually had no idea that they were even half sisters until that point. So that was a wonderful thing. They found out about their mother, who she was. They made some contacts on the mother side of the family, but Renee did not know who her father was. So she reached out to us and I took a look at her case. The first thing I noticed is she really didn't have very many matches overall. She did have a few matches and some of them were decent matches. But the problem was, first of all, there were virtually no trees, no public trees. If there were any trees at all, they were kept private. And so that made it very difficult to try to get some clues to start mapping the individuals, especially if the individuals were using initials or aliases. So it was hard to get started with those. Now, I did find there were a couple of matches who appeared to be around the second cousin level, and their names were Elizabeth and Susan. Well, both of them had private trees. So I took the chance to contact them via Ancestry Messenger to see if they would give me some clues as to who their parents and or grandparents were so I could try to network them together. I did notice that in addition to them possibly being second cousins with Renee, they appear to be second cousins to one another. So I contacted each of them via Ancestry Messenger. Our hope is to always make, to begin a dialogue with the people that we message, but a lot of times they don't respond at all, or they don't even notice that they have a message. So I wasn't too hopeful with this, but thought I would give it a chance. So I contacted each of them and explained who I was and what I was doing, and I was hoping that they could share the names of their parents and or grandparents with me to try to build out Renee's family tree. So pleasantly, I was surprised that both of them responded to me. They both provided the names of their parents and grandparents with me and seemed very interested in knowing who this mystery second cousin of theirs might be. So in looking at both of the messages and looking at the the people who they were related to, parents and grandparents, I noticed a name in common, and that was Barkers. Both of them had a grandmother who was named with the last name Barker. So I knew that that had to be the connection. So I started to build that branch of the tree, and it took me up to recent immigration. So once I was able to get to the grandparents, I wasn't able to get much further. But one of those contacts, Elizabeth, she continued to communicate with me, and she told me that she did have a, a lot of research that was done on the family, and she would be willing to send me a descendancy chart of that part of the family, which that in itself was gracious and unbelievable and so generous of her to do that. And she did email me a list of descendants from this Barker family. This was just such a detailed document that she provided to me and shared with me, and I feel like I would be forever grateful to her for doing that. So I started to write down all of the Barkers in the family. Now, what I haven't mentioned is this is just one grandparent branch that I'm looking at. There's still another grandparent branch, and that branch was even worse. There were fewer matches, and I had one name in common with a couple of the matches, and that was Tompkins. But the Tompkins people were even harder to find than the Barker family. So I really hadn't been able to build that tree out that much. The actual highest match was possibly a great uncle. It could have been a half first cousin. It was about 550 centimorgans, which is a good match, but I couldn't find anything on the person. And it did appear that he was older, so I was thinking he could be a great uncle, but he might not have even been in this country. So finding anything even based on his name was frustrating and seemed to be impossible. But at least I was able to get somewhere on the Barker side of the family, so I started to build that up. I found that there, with the descendancy chart, there were several children in the family, so I started to map them out. And as I was doing that, I was adding their spouses. Well, once I was adding one of the men to the tree, one of the Barker men, I noticed his wife, he married who? A Tompkins. So I was like, holy cow, I think this is where it's coming in together. So I was actually convinced that this is where it was coming together. And so I started to concentrate on that family. So in that family, where the Barkers and the Tompkins came together, there were 7 children, and 3 of the children were boys. Well, since we are looking for a boy, which would essentially be the father of Renee, I concentrated on the men. So the 3 men were named Paul and Stephen and Jack, and I got as much information together as I could. Now, Paul and Jack never married and had no documented children, so there was no information beyond them. There was nobody that could possibly test. And then for the other son, Paul, he eventually married and had some children, so there could be some testers from there. So I was able to provide that information to Renee. I was able to narrow it down to one of 3 brothers. I was able to provide her contact information to these wonderful cousins who were willing to help, because without the generosity of sharing information, I guarantee you that this case could never be solved just on DNA alone. If the records don't exist, if the DNA matches aren't there, no matter how hard you try, a case will never be solved. And sometimes the only way that a case can be solved is with the help of the community. And really, that's what Ancestry and the other platforms are about. It's about sharing information, it's about opening up families and just sharing information just to bring families closer together. And like I said, this absolutely could not have happened without the generosity of sharing information that these second cousins provided in order for Renee to find her biological family. Now, this just was revealed just days ago, really. And so it's just at the beginning stages of families connecting, of people providing information, pictures, just things that Renee just wants just to know where she came from, who she looks like, and things that we take for granted. So if you would show your support, not just to Renee, but to the generous cousins that she had who were helpful in providing really the keys to solve this mystery, please put a dark blue heart in the comment section to show your support for this family. Until next time, have a good day.